Hello, and thank you for attending today's webinar regarding FOCI, Foreign Ownership Control or Influence. My name is Elisa Young, and I'm a procurement specialist with Connecticut Apex. Our Apex Accelerator is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with OSBP, Office of Small Business Programs under the Department of Defense, with matching funds provided by Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, DECD. We are hosted by Sector, which is located in Groton, Connecticut. Our mission is to help Connecticut businesses interested in competing in the government marketplace through education, guidance, and training. We are part of the government contracting ecosystem to help educate and provide resources to businesses in regards to the complexity of government contracting. Connecticut Apex is a statewide program which we have offices located throughout the state of Connecticut and provide free education and counseling services regarding government procurement to businesses headquartered in Connecticut. Connecticut Apex provides assistance with education at no cost in regards to the complexity of government contracting, which includes understanding federal, state, and local government contracting laws, policies, and procedures, assisting with federal, state, and local government registrations and certifications, especially socioeconomic certifications, market research with procurement history, identifying bid opportunities, preparing bid proposals, one-on-one counseling, cybersecurity requirements and compliance, creating government-friendly capability statements, and bid matching, which also assist with locating federal and state government solicitations. Here are some of our valued resource partners located throughout Connecticut. All of these valuable resource partners are a part of the government contracting ecosystem, whose plays an important role in assisting our clients in various stages of their contracting goals. Today's agenda will be an introduction to FOCI, which is an overview of what foreign ownership, control, or influence, FOCI, entails in the context of government contracting, the importance of why FOCI is relevant to the national security and to government contractors, and who needs to be aware of FOCI, focusing on defense contractors dealing with sensitive or classified information and firms with foreign stakeholders or investors. When talking about FOCI, foreign generally refers specifically to foreign persons from a country of concern. When the word foreign is combined with the word person, it means any foreign national, foreign entity, or any entity over which control is exercised or exercisable by a foreign entity. Any entity over which control is exercised or exercisable is a foreign person. Per the Sitter Extension Act of 2022, the term foreign country of concern includes the People's Republic of China, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the Russian Federation, and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Also, any other countries deemed to be a country of concern by the U.S. Secretary of State. There are types of FOCI risks, such as foreign adversaries that may attempt to acquire sensitive or proprietary data from small businesses due to due diligence before investing. Foreign adversaries may structure their investments to avoid scrutiny or route investments through intermediaries to hide the money's origin. The source of FOCI affects the severity of risk associated with FOCI. Close allies of the U.S. are generally considered low FOCI risk, while foreign countries of concern, FCOC, like Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China, pose much a greater FOCI risk. Key regulations are governed by NISPOM and DSCA, which there are executive orders that govern FOCI. There's also statutory authorities and executive orders that are pertinent that were established. Now we're going to watch a half-hour video regarding a real-life situation made by the Federal Bureau of Investigation called Made in Beijing. the plan for global domination, before going into more depth, including FOCI assessments and mitigation measures. Please be aware that there may be some brief ads during this presentation.
Going into an office, working 50 hours a week, having that structure.
While the world has witnessed a thriving economic partnership between China and the U.S. for decades,
now, through the common efforts of China and the United States, the gate to friendly contact has finally been opened.
behind the scenes, it is a complex relationship where each country sees the other as a potential adversary. In 2013, President Xi Jinping is intent on re-establishing China's dominance in the Pacific and is dismissive of American complaints of cyber espionage. So the U.S. fires a warning shot.
Wanted by the FBI, 5 Chinese military officials who've allegedly spent years stealing trade secrets from some of the biggest companies in the U.S.
For the first time, we are exposing the faces and names behind the keyboards in Shanghai used to steal from American businesses.
Recognizing that U.S. leadership was built on economic strength, the Chinese Communist Party attempts to follow suit. They launch an ambitious roadmap to rapidly transform their manufacturing base into a high-tech global powerhouse by the year 2025. Made in China 2025 targets 10 industries essential to cutting-edge manufacturing supply chains. They issue a series of 5-year plans outlining their goals. However, their tactics do not mirror free economic development. Forced technology transfers, acquisitions of foreign companies, intellectual property theft, and industrial espionage are widespread.
New tonight, stolen secrets stretching from Charlotte to China. Prosecutors say this man worked with the Chinese government, stole millions of dollars worth of technology from a local company and brought it back to his homeland.
Experts believe the Chinese Communist Party's goal is to control entire supply chains and manipulate global and domestic market conditions. More worrisome is the state-sponsored funding of China 2025 by the Communist Party, which fuses their commercial production with industrial research and military objectives, posing an even greater threat to U.S. national security.
We've now reached the point where the FBI is opening a new China-related counterintelligence case about every 10 hours. China is engaged in a whole-of-state effort to become the world's only superpower by any means necessary.
Those long-held suspicions of adversarial intentions are now on public display. The eventual demise of capitalism and the ultimate victory of socialism will require a long historical process to reach completion. Think your company couldn't possibly be a target for Chinese espionage? Think again. Experts say it's a viable threat, and U.S. businesses of all sizes need to be on guard, because as you will see, everyone is at risk.
This isn't a case of somebody stealing a blueprint and copying it down the street. This is really intentional theft with the purpose of trying to destroy a company. And how they did it is they turned one of our employees against us.
We've got about 50 million followers. We're in the billions of views, and we're a small team. We always felt like our content was all about entertainment.
The trouble starts in 2010, when a turbine owned by Sinovel Wind Group explodes at a wind farm in northern China. Sinovel engages help from American Superconductor, or AMSC, a Boston-based company with a branch in Madison, Wisconsin.
Sinovel had this problem with their wind energy grid, and the solution to that problem was made by American Superconductor.
We're a key component supplier, so we supplied the hardware and the software that make the brain of the wind turbine go. We probably had done somewhere around $600 to $700 million of business already. We then signed another $500 million component supply contract with them.
Under the new contract, AMSC will retrofit thousands of Sinovel's old turbines with new technology to help prevent further explosions, but it comes at a high price tag.
So all the indications, at least at that point in time, were the relationship was very good. There was a strong need for the services and products that we offered. And then it all really changed in the early months of 2011.
Tired of paying out $400 million annually for AMSC's source code, Sinovel looks for a shortcut. They find their way in through an employee at AMSC's office in Austria.
Dejan Karabasevic is a Serb national. He was an up-and-coming engineer in the company and spent about 70% of his time in China, out on the wind turbines, living and working with Sinovel employees.
He was a very good boss. He was taking care of his employees. He was working very, very hard. He was a very intelligent guy and a very hard-working guy.
When Dejan experiences a setback at AMSC and is demoted to customer service, his ego gets bruised.
A lot of people was cut from his team, and a lot of development decisions was taken away from him.
Dejan openly complains, even to his Sinovel co-workers Xu Ling and Chao Haicheng, both high-level executives. They realize Dejan might be their ticket to AMSC's secret source code.
Dejan was a typical insider threat. His profile from his coworkers was that he was money hungry, a womanizer, he was angry, he was narcissistic.
They really convinced this guy that he was going to do the right thing by helping them. He'd have a whole new life in China with a lot of money and a lot of women involved.
He downloaded source code from servers in Austria. That was part of the components that run the wind turbine control system. He needed the other half. The other half was in Wisconsin. So he downloaded that as well. And he then put the two pieces together, and that made the product that Sinovel wanted from him.
The following day, in early 2011, Dejan resigns from AMSC. A few days later, Sinovel drops a bombshell.
Sinovel called AMSC and told them that they would no longer be customers of theirs. They had $120 million in parts sitting on the dock. They had $600 million in contracts in the pipeline with Sinovel, and all of those were immediately canceled.
What happened to us wasn't only the abandonment of this one contract, but all of our business was now put in play. Wall Street thought we were going to go under. We had probably 16, 17 banks writing on us, covering us. That dried up very quickly, very fast.
There was a huge drop in market capitalization for American Superconductor. They lost $1.4 billion in market cap and became from a $1.6 billion company to a $200 million company.
At the time, we were almost 900 employees, and we got down to 300 within a year or so.
Perplexed at Sinovel's behavior, AMSC begins an investigation. They discover that Sinovel no longer needs their control system software because they had stolen the source code, modified it, and was using it. It had to be an inside job.
With some internal discussion with the core people in the company, it turned out quite fast that it's most likely Dejan who did that.
AMSC alerts Austrian authorities of the theft, and Dejan confesses to police while his apartment is searched.
In his apartment, which was very small, it really only was one room. We then found and took away the first data storage devices. This was a laptop, a hard drive, USB sticks, etc. We went ahead and seized these items.
We found out that he had a $1.7 million contract with Sinovel, and we found Skype chats that clearly showed that he was working with Ms. Su and Mr. Zhao in order to steal the source code and modify it for the purposes of Sinovel to work on their wind turbines in China.
We then contacted the public prosecutor, and at that time the public prosecutor issued the arrest warrant for us to arrest Mr. Karabasevich.
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story.
American Superconductor sues Sinovel in the Chinese courts trying to recover AMSC's secret source code, but to no satisfaction. They're told that the AMSC source code they're trying to recover is a Chinese national security secret.
Sometime in late January of 2012, we learned that from the victim company that there was stolen software running on the wind turbines in Massachusetts, Sinovel wind turbines. Not only did he steal that software and give it to China so that it could be used in China to retrofit thousands of wind turbines in China, there was stolen software running on the wind turbines in the front yard of American Superconductor. And so we decided that we were going to try and gather evidence on those wind turbines.
Their goal is to make a digital forensic image of the software, which is stored at the top of the 364-foot turbine.
This was the first time we'd ever searched wind turbines in the FBI. These are large mechanical structures. They have a lot of voltage and wattage going through them. They can be dangerous to operate in and around. We didn't have any special expertise or equipment, but we put a plan together. That's what the FBI does. We got an early indication that it was the stolen source code. It matched digitally what we knew Karabasevich downloaded and what he changed. He made some changes to the software to make it usable for the Chinese company.
Not only do they steal it, but they have the gall to export it to the United States. And then they have the gall to export it to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which is where we're today. This is where our headquarters is, for a project that's funded by federal stimulus money, TARP money at the time. If I wrote the script, that is not how I would write it, because I would not think it would be believable.
In January 2018, Sinovel is found guilty of trade secret theft and wire fraud.
Sinovel is the first Chinese corporation that's been convicted after a trial here in the United States. Given the resources of the FBI, we can go after these companies. We can hold them accountable for stealing the hard work of America's engineers and software writers. We can claw back and we can recover for the victim company. The Chinese can be beat.
Industrial espionage is an equal opportunity offender and can happen to any U.S. company. Large established entities with numerous subsidiaries to small mom-and-pop startups with a handful of employees, or, in this case, both.
I was employee number 8 in this company. We grew it to about 500. With most of them, 300 being in China. And it was a single technology company. So when this happened, it hurt. It's like a family member that has betrayed the family, the company.
Dr. Jiwen Huang was born and raised in China, and after receiving his PhD in chemical engineering, he worked at several U.S. companies before landing a job at a small energy company in Charlotte, North Carolina.
So that energy company really is a small mom-and-pop organization. It has a proprietary technology, a niche in the energy sector that only 1 or 2 other companies in the United States really were able to do. And so they really had the market down in the United States, and they realized that they had 8 times the growth potential in China that they did here in the United States. So they said, let's start a joint venture in China. Shi Wen was put in charge of that joint venture, not only as a chemical engineer, but really as a translator, as a lead person because of his Chinese descent, to lead that initiative for them.
We've got about 50 million followers. We're in the billions of views, and we're a small team.
But when Dr. Huang disappears during a trip to China and is later caught lying about his activities, company executives grow suspicious. They do a Google search and find an article that startles them.
The article talked about Shi Wen Wang and a company that he initiated here in the United States going into business with a chemical company in China with full support of the government of China, doing business in direct competition with the victim company here in Charlotte.
Dr. Huang's new business focuses on the same catalyst technology as his employer and is even incorporated in the same state.
It turns out that he sent the incorporation papers to the Secretary of State in North Carolina on our fax machine. Once someone starts lying to you, I think anything is possible.
The company conducts a search of their computer network, and it confirms their worst fears. Dr. Huang had hacked his way in and stole sensitive trade secret documents.
At that point, I felt very strongly that we should enlist the FBI. I got quite a bit of pushback, surprisingly, from staff. People were concerned, and I understand the concern, that there'd be a distraction, that the FBI would come in and say, wait, we found this too, and nothing could be further from the truth.
There were no Suburbans pulling up. There were no guys in black suits and sunglasses sitting down, taking over their computer keyboards. Because honestly, we don't know the business. We only stayed in our lane. We looked at the areas that we needed to look at within the company to gather evidence.
A search warrant on Dr. Huang's emails reveals a treasure trove of evidence.
We saw that he was being funded by both the 100 and 1,000 talent programs out of China, a government-sponsored program which basically incentivizes theft of trade secrets and intellectual property out of the United States.
He had been approached by a colleague at a Chinese national university. He was told that the Chinese government would pay him cash up front, that they would build him a research facility, and all he had to do was offer intellectual property from the West that was important to the Chinese government and in furtherance of their 5-year plan.
With this license to steal, Dr. Huang hopes it will bring him closer to realizing his dream.
He always wanted to be a businessman. He always wanted to run his own company, and he wanted to do it in China. It was his goal, his entire life in the United States, to return to China.
Wading through the 6,000 emails, agents alarmingly discover sensitive documents dating back 10 years from Dr. Huang's previous employers, a U.S. government research facility and a large chemical company.
They had no idea at all. Neither two previous companies had an insider threat program. That had they had even the most basic insider threat program, they would have more than likely identified the loss.
Dr. Huang is arrested during a sting operation, and agents catch a lucky break.
Shi Wen was in possession of a computer when he returned to the United States. On that computer contained 2 terabytes of data. All of our intellectual property from all the companies was contained within that computer. Shi Wen was a thief. And the one thing thieves don't trust are other people, because they know if they're willing to steal, other people will steal with them.
The perpetrator actually was using other technology that he took from previous companies, first in China, and had not gotten to our technology yet. The FBI found that it was not released. I guess it's like a cancer. They believe they got it all.
There's nothing more powerful than you making your thing happen. Really going for
The vital role agriculture innovations play in our national security is revealed during the most unlikely of investigations of the most brazen theft to date.
When they came in and tried to take our latest products, they were literally trying to access 30 years worth of investment in R&D, taking billions, tens of billions of dollars of R&D when you look at the accumulative effect over the last 30 years.
In the spring of 2011, an unidentified Asian man is caught by a farmer digging in a grower's field outside Des Moines, Iowa.
Growers field is the field where they do all their ag research. It's a field that's unmarked. It's a field that's not on a heavily traveled road.
The seeds planted there are a new inbred variety of corn developed by the giant agricultural company Corteva Agriscience, and they are worth millions. As the intruder flees, the farmer jots down his tag number and calls authorities. The FBI identifies the culprit as Dr. Mo Heilong of Boca Raton, Florida, who works for DBN Technology Group in China.
DBN is the largest ag company in China. We found out that China had in their 5-year plan that it was a priority for them to grow in their corn industry, and particularly in the genetic modified corn industry. So what we're seeing here is potentially foreign agents of a foreign power.
And soon, it's not just one grower's field under attack, but a second field used by the technology game changer, Bayer Crop Science.
We learned that there was an individual identified with a foreign competitor who was in fact digging in areas where we had planted very proprietary germplasm or seed for development of future products. This individual knew precisely where to go, knew precisely which parental lines to take, which ones were the most valuable.
The FBI opens an investigation, and top on their list is Mo Heilong, who travels to the Midwest on a regular basis. The FBI puts a tail on him in hopes of catching him in the act.
He was trying to map out these grower fields. It's very hard to find them, but if you have the technology and the science behind you to understand it, you can find them. We had surveillance going on, eyes in the sky and on the ground. We followed Mo everywhere he was going.
During planting season in 2012, Mo travels to Iowa and illegally purchases the latest inbred corn seeds from Bayer and Corteva at several co-ops.
These particular seeds, just to get one to market, takes on an average of 8 years of all the technology they put behind it. Most of these seeds take up to $100 million just to make one seed get to market. And this is what they were after.
That there was an individual identified product is they could really circumvent as much as 30 years worth of R&D and bring their company up to speed very quickly.
So there's a lot of value in this, and this is why corn is so important to not just the U.S., to the world.
After purchasing the corn, the FBI tails Mo as he drives to Chicago, where he drops off several large packages at FedEx. The FBI intercepts the boxes.
There was over 250 pounds of corn seed in each one of these boxes. Now we have to prove this is inbred seed, but we haven't had it tested yet because it takes a very long process to do the DNA testing. So Corteva said, how about this? How about you take pictures of these corn seeds, because these corn seeds have different colors. They said, take the pictures of the corn seeds, and then we'll get one of our products that's over 8 years old, we'll color code it to match it, and then you can switch this out.
All the FBI has to do is swap it out, and no one will be the wiser. But the clock is ticking.
They switched the corn seed out, put it in the box, sealed it back like it came right out of the FedEx. We got on the plane and off to DBN in China where it went.
While the corn seed is being DNA tested, Mo and his spy ring are regularly coming to Iowa on buying sprees. The FBI wires up their rental cars with audio surveillance.
They got in the car and they started talking about how they're spies. They talked about how they're stealing intellectual property. They talked about all this stuff. And one guy's real fearful, and the other guy, what was great was he was trying to calm him down, saying, don't worry about it. They won't do anything to us. The Americans are too nice. I don't know if they think we're too nice now, but at that time they thought we were really nice.
Dr. Mo Heilong is arrested for theft of trade secrets after DNA results confirm the corn he illegally purchased and intended to ship to China was indeed the specialized inbred corn. Mo pleaded guilty and received a 3-year prison sentence. There were 5 other indictments, including employees of Corteva and Bayer.
The more that I worked with the FBI in this new environment, the more you begin to realize that this truly is an international threat that is growing in importance. It is going to be a part of what the corporate world is going to be in the future.
The thing I tell everyone this, if China worked this hard to steal a corn seed, how hard would they work to steal what you produce?
Listen, there's a good chance somebody's trying to hack your website right now. You gotta...
The Chinese Communist Party will pull out all the stops to obtain technology from the West, and even use members of academia to help them meet one of their top strategic goals: modernizing their military.
This is a really rare case where we can trace the economic espionage and theft of trade secrets all the way back from the Chinese government through many intermediaries to the subjects in the United States.
We received information that an individual named Shan Shi was interested in exporting syntactic foam, which is a certain type of technology, to China.
We looked at the technology, and syntactic foam is one of those technologies that is really important to the United States and that no one's ever heard of.
It was a material that provides buoyancy in a wide variety of applications in the oil and gas industry and also in military.
It gives our submarines a key advantage over the submarines of other countries because it allows them to dive deeper and it allows them to be quieter. It's also used in our latest stealth destroyers because it's porous, so radar goes through it instead of bouncing off of it.
There are export controls on syntactic foam. It requires an export license to send overseas to certain countries, and China is one of those countries.
Syntactic foam is also a billion-dollar industry, and only 3 companies in the world make it. One of them is Trelleborg of Houston, Texas, who spent 40 years developing the technology.
We knew we had a technology that was of interest to China, and then we started delving into what was happening in Houston, what Shan Shi was interested in, and how far along in the process he was.
They obtained search warrants for Dr. Shi's emails and are alarmed to discover that the former professor from Texas A&M is already in possession of the secret formula for syntactic foam, and has been for a year.
That sort of changed the nature of the investigation for us from something that was export focused to something that was theft of trade secrets, economic espionage focus.
Dr. Shi's emails reveal that the Chinese government had an intricate plan to steal Trelleborg's recipe for syntactic foam. They first hired Dr. Shi through the 1,000 Talents program and bankrolled him $3 million. Dr. Shi then opened a front company, CBM International in Houston, and started hiring engineers.
They were able to recruit 2 former Trelleborg employees who had access to the trade secrets that they eventually stole. They got enough trade secrets to the point where they couldn't quite mass produce the entire syntactic foam product, but they were able to make the key ingredient of it.
Dr. Shi hires another engineer, one recently fired by Trelleborg, who helps produce the entire syntactic foam technology. China is now ready to mass produce.
We knew we had a situation where we needed to move as quickly as we could. We set up an undercover operation to give Shan Shi and CBM an opportunity to demonstrate their technology and attempt to sell it.
It's actually stuffed with syntactic foam in the middle, so it's
It was much more than we ever expected because every project they showed was for the Chinese government or for the Chinese Navy. Chinese military. And then in the middle of it, they kind of realized maybe we shouldn't be talking about this. So Shanxi says, well, we try not to work with the government and the Chinese Navy, and we follow all U.S. laws. And then our undercover was like, wait, so you did all this for the Chinese Navy? And, then they were like super awkward and uncomfortable. And they were like, no, like, that's not what we meant. So, and then 5 minutes later, they all got arrested. So it was a good undercover takedown.
Yeah, I need a job. I made a mistake. Yeah.
We stopped them from acquiring that extra technology where they could mass produce on a large scale.
The Chinese government is like a giant company that's posing as a country, and they're fighting this economic war, and they're using all of the tools at a nation's disposal, and they're using all of these things to compete against U.S. companies, which are limited to traditional business tools, right, where all they can do is have a better product, and it's really difficult to compete against all of that.
I chose Wix for my business because of its massive scope for functionality and freedom of
In only a few short years, China is likely to meet its fourth industrial revolution goals, and the Chinese Communist government is hoping to overtake the United States as the world's #1 economy by the end of this decade. China's 5-year plans are publicized, allowing U.S. companies a heads up to see if their industry is a target. But a warning to executives: if you need to do business with China, go in with your eyes open.
There literally is a shopping list of technology, and if your company is on that shopping list, please beware, because whatever means possible will be utilized to acquire that technology if it is critical for the development of the economy in China by the Chinese government.
Which could be highly detrimental to the U.S. economy, and experts fear could lead to the loss of entire industries.
A threat against one of us is a threat against all of us because it's the same tactics that are used over and over again.
My message to you is there's two types of companies: those who've been hacked and intruded, and those who don't know they've been hacked and intruded. It's everywhere.
Our advice is be careful. Protect your key data, protect your trade secrets, and just understand that it's the Chinese government's long-term strategy that they want to monopolize all of these industries, which means they want to eventually put you out of business.
Today, cases involving the foreign theft of U.S. technology make up about 1/3 of the FBI's counterintelligence investigations. And while there's a whole host of hostile nations we're concerned about, by far and away the greatest immediate and long-term threat to our information, our innovation, and our national and economic security is the one posed by the People's Republic of China. These stories illustrate efforts by the government of China to undermine the hard work of American industry and the ingenuity of its workers. The FBI does not and will never target individuals based solely on race or ethnicity. It is the mission of the FBI to uphold the Constitution and protect the American people, all American people.
That video was very insightful in regards to understanding the importance of FOCI in regards to our national security. To reiterate, some FOCI indicators could be foreign ownership stakes, foreign board members, foreign investments, including foreign partnership and joint ventures. Some risk areas for your business could be in regards to intellectual property, cybersecurity, and supply chain vulnerabilities. There are mitigation processes if you suspect that your company may have FOCI concerns, which includes conducting an internal FOCI risk assessment, submitting a FOCI mitigation request, having the DSCA review and approve your request, and being compliant with adhering to your mitigation agreement by conducting regular audits and updates. The purpose of mitigation is to allow contractors to maintain eligibility for government contracts despite foreign influence. Some mitigation strategies include board resolutions, security control agreements, special security agreements, proxy agreements, and voting trusts. The Office of Small Business Programs under the Department of Defense, DoD, has developed FOCI education for small businesses in the defense industrial base. FOCI education and resources can be found at the link located on this slide. Project Spectrum has been tasked by the DoD's OSBP to assist with cybersecurity and FOCI training and awareness, in which you can register for free for the FOCI training course at the link listed on this slide. There are FOCI reporting requirements for government contractors to disclose foreign stakeholders or ownership, changes in corporate structures, or executive positions in a timely manner to the DCSA. The DCSA, the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, has mitigation agreements, action planning, and implementation tools and resources, which a link can be found on this slide. This slide lists various resources with websites for more information regarding FOCI. Please note that this presentation, including the links mentioned, will be sent out to attendees after this presentation. Now we are going to have a Q&A session. Please input your questions in the Q&A box. Please note to reach out to your assigned Apex counselor for specific questions if I don't have time to answer your questions. So we have a few questions. The first one that I see is, how can we mitigate FOCI risks if we identify them in our organization? If you identify FOCI risks, there are several strategies that you can implement, which includes implementing a special security agreement, SSA, to establish controls to safeguard sensitive information and limit foreign access. You could also create a Foreign Ownership Control Plan, which is FOCP, that outlines the measures that you'll make to manage FOCI risks. You could also choose to divest foreign ownership. If possible, you can consider reducing or eliminating foreign ownership in your company to ensure compliance with government regulations. You could also enhance security measures by strengthening internal security protocols, including personnel screening and limit to sensitive information. Okay, so let me look back in the Q&A box. Okay. The next question I have is, what are the consequences of failing to disclose FOCI when required? Well, you could lose the eligibility to bid or maintain government contracts. In addition, you may be imposed with penalties or suspension of debarment from federal contracting. And also, non-disclosures can also lead to reputational damage, which can affect future business opportunities from working within the federal and local governments. Okay. The next question I see is, what businesses are most at risk for FOCI? That's a good question. Typically, all businesses should be aware of FOCI. When it comes to the businesses that are industries that are involved with the DoD contracting, critical infrastructure and technology, especially those that deal with national security and classified information. Yet any business that is seeking government contracts, regardless of their industry, should definitely be aware of FOCI implementations. Okay. And the next question that I have is, how does the government assess FOCI during the contract award process? Contractors are required to complete forms such as the Standard Form 328, which is the SF 328, which discloses foreign ownership and control. If potential foci is identified, the government may require further documentation or remediation measures before awarding you the contract. And it looks like there's one more question, which is, what steps should we take if we suspect foci issues after we have already secured a government contract? Well, first you should conduct an internal review to assess the extent of your foci concerns. And next you should disclose your findings to the contracting officer or the appropriate government agency as soon as possible. You may need to also work with legal or compliance expert to develop a remediation plan, which can include security agreements or restructuring of ownership if necessary. It's also very important to address these concerns quickly and effectively in order to help mitigate potential penalties or contract termination. Okay. That looks like the end of today's questions. Feel free to follow us on our website, ctapex.org, or on our Facebook or LinkedIn. In addition, you can register for online services for CT Apex at our website, as well as sign up for government contracting assistance and access to our e-learning library for an assortment of webinars on various topics in regards to government contracting. Thank you all for attending today's FOCI webinar. As previously mentioned, these slides will be sent out to our Connecticut Apex attendees after this webinar. Please feel free to read our current and past newsletters and events by clicking on the links above, as well as visiting our website at ctapex.org. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.